Hey, this is Scoots. If you fall asleep fast, I'm really trying to get your attention with this voice. So please pause a second, okay? But if you aren't in a position to support the show, if you're new, you only listen occasionally, you're just going through a tough time, don't worry about this message. We've got you. Listeners like Stephanie support the show, so you don't need to worry about it. But if you fall asleep fast, it's really tough to keep the podcast going in a way that benefits fall asleep fast listeners. It really comes down to fall asleep fast listeners supporting the show, which is, I guess, irony and paradox. Because if you fall asleep within 5 minutes, why would you support the show, right? If fall asleep fast listeners don't support the show, it just can't even exist. Pretty weird conundrum, unique to shows like Sleep With Me. So I don't know, is your why strong enough? Fall asleep fast, is that a big enough why to support the show? Would the show not being here be strong enough a why for you to support the show? Or is there something else, like something like Stephanie said? Stephanie's been listening to the show for 8 years, and I had the same experience Scooter describes all the time. Tried it, disliked it, didn't get it, and then I was traveling and I gave it another try. And I fall asleep really quickly now, and it's completely worth supporting the show. In tough times, Sleep With Me's been there. And I feel like I spend so much money on things that have no meaning in my life. This show means so much to me that I can't help but be a supporter. In the past, I felt like other people would take care of it for me, like there was people with limitless money that should be doing the part for the rest of us. But once I really thought about how I spend my money and my deep relationship with the show, I realized I am one of those people who should be a supporter. It took a while to step up, but I did. Scooter works hard for us, so do a bunch of other people, too. And hard work deserves fair compensation. I just hope my support is helping. Well, it is, Stephanie, and it's helpful to hear your why. And if you've got a why, but you haven't supported the show, you could support the show because of your why right now, especially if you fall asleep fast at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. But then I'm going to send you a video. I'd love to hear your why of why you're about to sign up and support the show. Or, you could be hopeful like me that someone else has a why out there and they fall asleep fast and they're going to sign up tonight. But if it's you, you could do that at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Thanks.
Taking care of your eyes shouldn't be a hassle. That's why Warby Parker is a one-stop shop for all your vision needs. Our prescription glasses and sunglasses are expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Stop by a nearby store or use our app to virtually try on frames and get personalized recommendations. Did we mention we offer eye exams and take vision insurance too? For everything you need to see, head to your nearest Warby Parker store or visit warbyparker.com today. That's warbyparker.com.
This show is supported by Odoo. When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary, trees in multiforms, it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that's here to put you to sleep, patrons. You support it and you enable me, and you make it possible. Thanks so much. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts or feelings, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature. So things that might be on your mind or things you're feeling or experiencing physically or emotionally coming up for you, or, places you are. You might not be sleeping at home, or someone else might be gone, or you might be anticipating something. Or it could just be a mystery. You could say, I don't know why. I'm just having trouble getting to sleep. Yeah, not sure why. Trouble staying asleep. Yeah, not sure why. Waking up early and needing someone to put you back to sleep. I got you there, too. They can be used in all those ways and many more. So I'm not sure exactly what's keeping you awake. But, I mean, the key thing is a lot of times I can relate to how you feel. Like, even physically, I don't know if you could just felt that, but I tried to really, I do really try to put myself in your position, even those of you that are already like, this is not the podcast for me, and I'm going to, 1-star you right now. Usually that manifests in the same place, like behind my upper rib cage, in the center of my chest. That's one place that I say, not when I can't sleep. It's not what keeps me awake, but it's like when I can't fall, like after I start to think about I can't fall asleep, you know what I'm saying? There's a little activity there behind the old rib cage. And it's like some sort of emotional resonance. I don't know if that's actually a word, but where some of my, feelings and organs are getting together and they're saying, Scoots, we're not happy about this either, this situation. We're a bit miffed, to say it mildly. So whatever's keeping me awake, here's my proposition. No, of course I want to see, here's the situation. Parents, like I say that 1 out of 3 intros, parents went away on a week's vacation. But here's my proposition. I'm going to try to create this safe place here. And you can hang those at the door, or you could bring in whatever's keeping you awake. I'll try to take your mind off of it and whatever's keeping you awake off of itself. Or off of you, saying, I got to get that human's attention. Got to shake the old rib cage. That's what you say. Wait, what's your job? Well, I'm the ultimate protector of you. Well, actually, I just protect a few, projection. Whoops, holy Freud, you got me. I'll tell you what, ultimate protector. Could I get back to you in a second? Because I was going to tell the listeners, especially the new ones. So what I'm going to do is create a safe place. I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. The deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So that means I'll go off topic, which you kind of already seen already. Word repetition. That's definitely a technique I've mastered. Or maybe that was a natural technique I've exploited. My natural tendency to reuse words in us and ahs and those kind of things. But if you're new, a few things to know. I really am glad you're here because I'd like to help if I can. Now, this podcast does not work for everybody, and definitely not everybody likes it. But see how it goes. Like, I don't say this in a way, I don't gain anything by this, but like that most listeners, almost, I guess like sometimes I want to say 99%, but maybe it's like 80, it's definitely over 80% that said I had to listen to it 2 or 3 times before I realized that there was kind of nothing to figure out. This podcast didn't make any sense. It makes so little sense. It makes perfect sense because I'm in the business of nonsense. But so give it a few tries and just see how it goes. But it does not work for everybody. I really wish it did. I really wish I could help everyone in the world fall asleep. Holy mackerel. I mean, because when I was a kid, the soda companies were the ones, you wouldn't believe this, most of you that are listening. But, that's, you say, Scoots, where do you learn all of your great things about life and humanity? I say, well, commercials that I watched as a kid, cartoons I watched as a kid, and sitcoms I watched as a kid. And once upon a time, there was a soda company, and they said, they put forth a proposition via song that if you could just buy everyone in the world a soda, that would be it. It'd be like a bliss city, worldwide bliss. And I think that's always stuck with me. I said one day, and I don't know, maybe there's probably a few people here in the U.S. that could easily buy the world a soda or two. But that was a song. It was really like, and they showed the whole globe in unity, in joy. It was a dream. Maybe it was some part of my brain said, it's a commercial, right? And I said, well, they also, the soda companies also are very, like, polar bears love them too. So I'm not sure you're exactly right. But I carry that dream with me that one day, I don't know what they called it. It was talk about soft drink power, soft power. It was soft drink power. The soft drink revolution. It wasn't even, people were just they said, wow, this is great. And I think it all started, as it always does, with a child singing about, it was a love song to soda. I think the child loved soda and the world so much. And here's the thing, I love soda. I try not to drink it only over a 1 day period a week, or like a cheat day or whatever, but I fail at that too. But that's what I'm striving to do. But as a youth, that stayed with me. I guess that was my point. And now I wish I could just lull the world a lull, and you'd be drifting off in sleepy harmony or whatever. But this podcast doesn't work for everybody. That was my meandering way of saying that. I wish it did. Just like I wish I could buy, if you don't drink a soda, I'd buy you something else. But I wish I could buy you one. Or something to say, something that you could use too. Or was I? So if you're new, podcast doesn't work for everybody. This is a podcast you don't need to listen to. Now, there's a lot of people that do listen. And there's people that kind of listen, there's people that barely listen, and there's few people that are finding new ways of, new ways of just barely listening at all. So you could kind of see how it goes. But if you're new, if you're listening very closely and trying to follow along and figure stuff out, I mean, clearly, I think I've already made my case that I don't really need to be fully listened to. Because, can't give everything I'm saying full credence. So you could kind of barely listen, almost like the soft focus of that sweet commercial, sweet dream that I had about the world being unified under the soda powers, the soda accords. So that's one thing. This is also a podcast, and it doesn't really put you to sleep. I'm more here to keep you company as you drift off. I'm your bore friend, your bore bud, your bore bae, your bore sib, your bore bestie, your bore bruh. I mean, one day, whatever people are saying now, and 3 years from now, I'll be saying that. So I'm here to keep you company, take your mind off of stuff as you drift off and walk at your side as you float away into dreamland. That's why the shows are about an hour, to give you plenty of time to fall asleep. There's no pressure to fall asleep, no pressure to listen. And as a matter of fact, if you can't sleep, I'm going to be here till the very end, because I do make this show with a couple of kinds of listeners in mind. I mean, that one thing I actually believe that by the episodes being an hour and fully complete, that it somehow helps, parts of part of your brain that's kind of active is kind of listen. I mean, don't let me puff up my ego too much, but those parts of your brain that are usually bugging you, for some reason, you might not like me that much, but those parts of your brain that are, but when you say, what's the purpose of that one tiny aspect of my personality? Who are we talking about? The projector. You see, what is your job exactly? Well, I project the past onto the future in order to protect you. Or I project the future onto the present with an immediacy. Yeah, or I'll project, our values onto somebody else and then do a comparison. It's not exactly, it feels like an those are my jobs, to keep you safe. You see, I don't know how any of that well, just trying to protect you, just doing my job. When were you invented, projector protector? Well, I just came about one day, sprang into existence. Would you like to be in this episode coming up? Because I'm towards, maybe we could do it. Could we do an episode with you? Would you be comfortable with that? Well, I don't know. You're the one that's got to do the work. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we could talk about that tonight. But usually those parts of our brains, or they say, this Scoots, he makes a lot of mistakes. I better keep my eye on him. Let my human rest. The holy fallible. They love I call them brain bots. They've never seen anyone I get their mail, believe it or not. They say, I've never seen anyone as valuable as you. You don't even know how to use that word. And I say, well, that's my job. Just doing my job. I'm a performer. And then they laugh knowingly. And I say, well, I'm just doing the service I can. And they say, hey, you're making the most of what you got, Hardy. And I say, yeah. So what was my point though? So the reason the episodes are about an hour is in case you can't sleep. I'm going to be here to keep you company, whether you're awake or asleep. So if you can't sleep, I'm here. If you listen all night, these episodes are not perfect for all night listening. A lot of stuff on Patreon's a little bit better. I mean, that's a plug. But it's just a reality of making the podcast. It has to have some support. But there are people that listen all night, and that's because maybe they're waking up. So I'm here when you wake up. So I'm just here for you in this way that I can be here for you, which is a strange way. I mean, I'm a strange person, and I'm here in a strange but well-intentioned way to keep you company and take your mind off stuff as you fall asleep. Structurally, if you're new, way too late to explain this to you, but I will. A show starts off with about 5 minutes of business, 5 to 6 minutes of business or so. Ideally, maybe. I'm always trying to trim it as short as I can, but that's how we keep the podcast free for everybody. Then there's an intro. Now, the intro, sometimes people get the intro with the business mixed up because the intro is mixed up. I just talk for about 12 to 20 minutes about the podcast, and I'm here to kind of help you fall asleep and to keep you company. But the real purpose of the intro is to give you time to wind down. Whether you're getting ready for bed or you're in bed and you're getting comfortable and kind of sinking in. The intro is where the day kind of fades away. And it's also where you can learn insights. For all of you that are younger, you say, geez, I didn't really know about the time the soda companies, did they actually save the world, Scoots, or did they just try? And I say, wow, great question. Hopefully the world works out better in your hands than, I don't know, maybe, hopefully whatever you saw. I used to watch a lot of commercials. You get to skip a lot more than I do. But I'm not sure, but I'm here to help you fall asleep. So the intro is just a long-winded way of me trying to check in and tell new people about the podcast. But for regular listeners, what up, regular listeners, and all my pets that also listen to the podcast. I mean, you're not my pets, you're our pets. My fishes, what's up with the fishes in the room? Because you don't get enough, talk about Creedence Clearwater Revival. You put, I don't know what that means, fishes, but, I know you can't be petted, but you could be treated with, you could get attention. Also, all the other pets, sorry, I can't call all of you out. Not all of you are as sleepy as, the big two, cats and dogs, who are great and deserve to be petted right now. But all you other pets are darn, holy cow. Is this the cutest group of pets I've ever seen in the world? So I pander to pets, or acknowledge their greatness. What was I talking about? The intro. Oh, that's another part of the intro. So intro just helps you get ready, get comfortable, and start to drift off. Then we'll do a story. Originally, I thought this intro was going to be about something else, but apparently it'll probably be looking at our friend Projector Protector, just because I like saying that. And, yeah, I think that's it. I mean, Then there's some thank yous at the end. There's also business between the intro and the show, the bedtime story. That's kind of just how, like, it's easier if when your hand hits the fridge tomorrow, you just say, "Oh, how do I support the show?" But that's where the ads are, and I think that's it. I mean, I hope I can help you fall asleep. Give it a few tries. Try not to take this. If you're skeptical, totally makes sense. Almost every listener came here skeptical and doubtful. Of course you would be, but I'm really glad you're here, and I really hope I can help you fall asleep. I work very hard on the show. I yearn and I strive, let's see how it goes, right? And here's a couple of ways we're able to keep this podcast free for everybody. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts you're thinking about, so things on your mind, from the past, present, or future, feelings, any emotions that might be coming up for you, feeling-wise, or physical sensations you're feeling. So thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, maybe changes in schedule, work routine, or just other stuff. You know, it could be inside, it could be outside. It could be seasonal, or it could be situated. Whatever it is that's keeping you up, I'm here to take your mind off of that. And here's what I propose to do. I'm going to try to create a safe place where you could set all that aside. Like I said, I'm going to smooth it. I'm going to pat it. I'm going to rub it down. I'm going to say safe place. And then I'm going to smooth it and pat it and rub it down again and then smooth it out and then pat it. Because that's what I do. I don't have that level of bed routine. But if I did have, I'd say, well, could you smooth that and pat it, shouldn't you pat it last? Smooth it, pat it, rub it down, say safe place, smooth it out, then do a welcoming pat. Okay, then what do you, let's try to establish a safe place. Another technique I'm going to use, I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use a lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, which is how my voice sounds, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. I'm going to go off topic. I'm going to get mixed up. Like I said, sometimes my mixed up words, I realize those are real words, like boysenberry, which again is not spelled how I would think to spell it. And smell it? I don't know. And also, this is a fair question. Is that a real thing? Or is that one of the great corporate berries that have been but I mean, is it a corporate berry? I've heard of boysenberry pie, but I didn't know if it was like boysenberry pie. There's no berries are included in this pie, but it is and I said, well, it is delicious. So we'll come back to that. But yeah, basically, here's the thing. If you're a regular listener, thanks for coming back. So good to see you. What should I do with your feet tonight? Okay, by the way, I like that. I'm really impressed. Okay, do you want your feet in or okay? What about 1 foot in, 1 foot out? What if I build a tent using your toes for airflow? And then if you decide you want full, then you could just pull your feet back and the tent will close. Okay. Yeah, or I could do it with this book here, and then you could just kick the book right out of bed. And you could maybe that would be something empowering. Maybe that could be a new thing we all do. You see, hold on, Scoots. I thought you were introduced. Okay, well, I'm just working with usually I talk to the new listeners, but this is an idea for regular listeners. You say, okay, Scoots, this sounds like one of your wild ideas. It is. You take a book, preferably a hardcover book. You probably not unabridged, but I'm thinking about something like one of those Reader's Digest abridged summaries of a bunch of books, because those are usually pretty sturdy. Or a Funkin' Wagnalls encyclopedia. We can't get enough of saying Funkin' Wagnalls. And you set it up like in a A-frame situation. Parents went away on a week's vacation. Yeah, no, this is different. So at the foot of your bed, and then you use that A-frame as a superstructure to tent the end of your blankets. Then you could place your feet either on the air hole on the other side of the A-frame superstructure or on either side. You could decide. And what will that accomplish, Scoots? Well, one, airflow. Two, this is more important, actually, than the airflow. Gives you a feeling of control and options. Okay, Scoots, tell me more. Well, okay, so one, okay, the bed, like, depending on what's at the foot of your bed, obviously got to think about that. Because when I have a guest, I don't have a guest room. And when I set up my guest bed, it's actually at the foot of my bed. So I couldn't do this if I had a guest sleeping on a mattress on my floor. So just in case anybody's in that situation. So you have the book there, the bed book, now available from the Sleep With Me store. It's an old book that goes in your bed. It's a bed book. But so then you could say, okay, well, I like this. My feet, I like this feeling of airflow with my feet, or I can put my feet in, like you could put your feet out. You'd say, hey, Toesy Poos, you want to go look outside out of the comfort and the blanket? Go on down there. Peek around to see what you see. And then they could come back. But then you could also, for a couple different reasons, you could say, well, I prefer to get my feet now fully enclosed in my comforter and blankets. You just kick the book out of there. Or it could be something symbolic or less than symbolic where you say, you know what, I'm fed up with this airflow. And then you don't have to kick the book. You just push it forcefully out of your bed. Or it could be a way you could release some other feelings. If you have a partner that's sound asleep and snoring, you could say forceful pushing of this book out of my bed symbolizes the strong feelings I feel, and now I'm ready for bed. It could be one more part of your bedtime routine. So that's just an option I thought of just now. Now, if you're a new listener, holy moly, I'm late to the game already. A couple things to know, which maybe you figured out. This is a podcast that barely ever gets to any points, doesn't go anywhere, but it kind of does. It takes forever to get there. So if you're new, try to barely pay me any attention. And I know that's hard when you're new. Like, you really have to learn that, oh, wait, he's serious. He doesn't want us to pay any barely attention. We could pay attention to him, but we don't need to. And if you try to pay too much attention to me, that's when it's like it doesn't work out, because they say, when is this show going to get started? So just kind of loosely consume the podcast. Though this idea, you might see right through me. But for me, this could be, this is a free idea that could work for everyone. This is groundbreaking stuff for me. Putting a book at the end of your bed. And it could be, you see, that's a free idea. You know, who else I don't remember any of those other famous inventors or, astronomers or whatever, philosophers. Maybe some of them gave their ideas away. You see, well, Scoots, I don't know if you could really put your ideas, you can't put a price on them. Right. You mean that's a priceless idea? No. It's just hard to put a price on that, the idea of putting a book at the end of your bed. So it's priceless. No, it's hard to price it. You'd say, well, it's a free idea. Yeah, maybe that's the right price. Okay, thanks. Oh, so barely pay any attention. So this is one of the few podcasts you don't really need to listen to. That's one thing. The second thing to know is that this isn't really a podcast to put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company while you drift off, not really to put you to sleep. I'm here to be at your bedside and to take your mind off of stuff and just be here talking and while you fall asleep, like I'm gently walking at your side while you drift off. And that's kind of why the shows are about an hour. It gives you plenty of time to fall asleep. And then if you can't sleep, you know I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to be here to the very end, episode after episode. So if you can't sleep, I'm here too. Or if you wake up or whatever. So those are a couple things to know. Now, the other things, if you're new, that can throw new listeners off are a few things. The structure of the show. Like, so listening to the show, that throws people off right away. The idea that I'm here to put you to sleep, but not really, that throws people off. Creaky dulcet tones and my inability to speak throw people off. So those are all natural reactions. Because I think I forgot to say this podcast definitely does not work for everybody. I don't even think it works for the majority of people that listen to it for 1 to 3 times. But most regular listeners, which is a pretty big number of people, they said it took 2 or 3 tries. Now I listen every night, or now I listen whenever I need it. Because I realized all the stuff. Scoots was serious when we said don't listen to him. And it made sense when he said, well, your ideas aren't priceless, Scoots. They're just hard to price. Because I don't do, like, what do you mean? Pre-disc. Yeah, we don't know whether to discount. I'm not discounting your ideas. I'm just wondering what the discount we would put on your idea when we price it. Like how to build that in. Okay, that sounds familiar to other tangents I've been on. It probably is, Scoots. Probably those were hard to price, too. So those are, structure. That's the other thing that can throw new listeners off. So show starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary, so that you know you're welcome here. And ideally I can maintain the rapport and trust I'm trying to build to create a safe place, though I don't always achieve that. I'm not perfect. That's what I'm striving to do. So then there's business. So the business is about 4 to 8 minutes long of me rambling. Even the business, I try to get to the point. I try to make that a little bit flashier because that's how we bring you the show twice a week. Then after that is the intro, which is the intro is around from minute, 6 to minute 20 or so. It could be from any of those minutes to any minutes and, but the intro is about 12 to 20 minutes, which we're already probably 12 minutes into it. So we're going to be longer than 12 minutes tonight of me trying to introduce the podcast. 800, 900 times I've tried to do it and not successfully summed it up because it's hard to price. It's hard to describe. But the other thing for the regular listener is the intro is part of the show. It's part of their wind down routine. The whole thing is to ease you off into bedtime. So some people start listening as they're getting ready for bed and they're doing their wind down routine. Some people listen when they're in bed. Some people are listening during the day while they're working or whatever, when you need a break. But the idea is the intro slowly gives you some space from the day and starts to relax you or distract you. And then we'll go into then there's business after the intro. And then I'll do our seasonal series, episodically modular series, Odder Things. So that's the structure of, and then there's some thank yous. So that's the structure of the show. And then, some listeners skip 2% of listeners start the show around 20 minutes. Then another 2 or 3% of listeners, maybe up to 5, set a sleep timer for 30, 45, or 60 minutes. Some people listen all night, though I don't know if this version is the best. Like the Patreon versions are a little bit better to listen to all night. But so that's, you could kind of discover how you're going to consume the show. Like at first, just see how it goes. Like most listeners said, it didn't work the first time, didn't work the second time. I was skeptical. Then I realized I was skeptical for like, it's like, oh, my skepticism was paid off. For once, my skepticism paid off because I was skeptical and doubtful, and then I fell asleep. So that's it. I guess I was going to talk about boysenberries because I've heard that like term, and you'd think it would have an O-I in there, but I think it's like a Y, B-O-Y or something, N-E-S or E-N-S, boysenberry. But I always feel like a boysenberry is like a marketing berry or, like I said, a corporate berry. And then it makes me think of strawberry shortcake because she ran with a lot of berry-based creatures or beings. So I don't know if there was a boysenberry. But, I always think of like the Belle Biv DeVoe song. So I would try to say, well, boysenberry rhymes with that's one of their more popular songs, but not spelled the same. So normally I would try to spell it B-O-I, because then I'd say, da-da-da-da-da, in full effect. You ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Let me try to spell it. Listener, I must warn you that I can't spell B. So that's normally how I spell everything. But so where was I? Oh, so I'm not exactly sure. I mean, sure, I'll get messages after this. Oh, yeah, boysenberries are a real thing. I say, well, okay, in my mind, it looks like somewhere, and here's one thing you need to know about me. I'm not I'll eat raspberries, but I'm much more of a blackberry or those type of, that side of the berry family. I appreciate a raspberry. But I don't know. Like, I think because I picked berries, as a kid, there was some prickle bushes we had access to. And so we would pick those and eat those. So, I don't know. Then I always think of like those, like more wild blackberry type berries. So I don't know if a boysenberry is like either one of those. I mean, you should know also, I'm a big pie. I love pies. Holy pie fan. Put me, hold 3.14, hold the phone because, I'll have 3.14 pieces of pie. Make one cold, make one for breakfast, and one with whipped cream, one with a la mode. Yeah, so I don't know where my point was there either. Oh boy. But yeah, so I guess here's the thing. The reason I make this show is because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place of respite. And ideally, whether it's this podcast or something else, you deserve something that makes bedtime less stressful and maybe something you can feel neutral about or look forward to. And I hope the show can provide it, but I know it doesn't provide it for everybody. So if it doesn't, I hope you find something that works. The other reason I make the show is because I've been there. I know how it feels in the deep, dark night, tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. So I just want to help because I know how it feels. And I know it feels lonely sometimes for me. Or frustrating or whatever other words, like I can't spell. Or boysenberry. I can't say boysenberry because that's too many. Anyway, so I'm here. I appreciate you coming by and checking this show out. I work really hard. I yearn and I strive. I really want to help you fall asleep. And here's a couple of ways we're able to bring this podcast free on a regular basis. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. And what I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature. Sorry, I got distracted. I apologize. I seriously apologize, listeners. I don't know if you have this experience at bedtime or daytime, but you're doing one thing and then your mind goes to somewhere else. I'm leaning in right now. And like another part of my brain said, Scoots, what about that thing we had to get done? And like part of me, and I'm not gonna like I can be honest with you. And you might be a new listener. This might be new to you. Podcaster getting honest about his foibles. But yeah, one part of my brain just took off on me and said it got my attention. It said, Scoots, we got to talk about this thing. And I said, and it started telling me all this stuff. I'm not like while I was just talking there for the past 14 seconds or so. And that's not really fair because I'm really here to pay attention to you and try to be in the moment. I kind of got sucked out of the moment there. So I'm going to kind of reset and then maybe we'll come back to this. We do with bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights and press play. I'm going to do the rest. That's right around, I'll go into what happened too. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights and press play. I'm going to do the rest. So what I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you reestablish it in this case, where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. It could be things you're thinking about, past, present, or future, right? We just got an example of how that happens even during the day. But for me, at night, it's even more amplified. It could be feelings or emotions coming up for you. But I'm trying to have a grounded thing of for me and say, hey, well, it's realistic, Scoots. Everybody gets spun out and distracted, even sleep podcasters. So you can't be having feelings about anything, though. And they might just be coming up. You don't even know where they came from. And I'm here to keep you company through that. It could be physical sensations, whatever it is that's keeping you awake. I'd like to take your mind off of that and keep you company as you drift off. And that's my job. Now, if you're new, before I get to the distractions, distracting you with my distractions, let me set up a couple things for you if you're new, because this podcast is very different and it could throw new listeners off. Understandably, you might be coming to this show skeptical or doubtful or confused. And those are all legitimate ways to view this podcast at first, because it is different. Of course, if you can't sleep or you have trouble sleeping, you say, what is this person going to put me to sleep at doing what? Or what are they up to? Or, that's totally normal. Also have creaky, dulcet tones and pointless meanders. Did I say that? Am I so distracted? That's how I do this. I create a safe place by sending my voice across the deep, dark night using lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones and pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So that's not everybody's cup of tea at first. Now, most listeners say, give it a few tries and see how it goes. And the best way to listen to this podcast is to barely not listen or mostly barely pay attention. Just imagine we're out of focus a little bit. You're saying, Scoots, you're coming at, I don't really need to, you don't have to hold my words in your ears. You could just let them bounce off. I call it reflective listening. There's active listening and all that stuff. Reflective listening, I think this is the only example other than when you're not, I'm sure there's people that are, intentionally reflective listening, but those are people on a mountaintop or under a Bodhi tree. But this is, for regular, everyday people, is you just let my words bounce off your eardrums. You say, okay, brain, don't worry about it. You don't have to turn the synapses off or whatever they're called, the ganglias or whatever. But, just turn it down. You let those words hit my eardrums that Scoots is saying. And, turn your interpretation and your understanding, bring it down to whatever. Put it on, we don't necessarily have sleep mode, but, passive mode. Because imagine if you told somebody, oh, I want to try to listen to you passively. They'd say, especially if it was someone that you're supposed to listen to, they'd say, what do you mean passive listening? So this is a bit like that, but it's sounds better. You say, well, it's reflective listening. Oh, you're going to reflect back what I'm saying? Well, actually, literally, I will be doing that, but I'm not exactly sure where the sound waves will go. I'll be reflecting your sound waves or my eardrums. My whole body actually reflects sound waves. I learned this, for on YouTube or something. But, so yeah, I will be reflecting your sound waves. What was the question? Oh, it's supposed to new listeners. So kind of give it a few tries, kind of see how it goes, but you don't really need to listen to me. Sometimes this podcast really throws people off when they're expecting it to get somewhere or for things to start happening or for it to develop or go someplace. It will eventually barely go someplace, but we're more like a floating leaf on a slow moving stream. Than, some sort of action, like where you say, oh boy, wow, that's some current really moving that leaf. I say, well, no, I don't know. The leaf's going, is the leaf even? So you could kind of barely listen. And here's the other paradoxical thing. I'm not really here to put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company. And so there is no pressure to fall asleep. I'm here to serve you in a strange way by just talking and keeping you company. And you can fall asleep whenever you want. So ideally, you don't even notice. That's the whole goal of the show. I take your mind off stuff. At some point, you fall asleep. I'm walking at your side. We're up on the clouds or whatever. And you say, you pretend, you're reflectively listening. Scoots. Okay. Yep. Podcast puts me to sleep. And then you drift off. That's the goal of the show. Now, here's the other thing. If you can't sleep, I'm going to be here till the end to keep you company. So that's the other side of it is if you can't sleep, I'm here because some listeners just can't sleep or you're waking up or you need a break during the day. I'm here for you. The show's complete. It's just a kind of complete that you don't need to listen to, really, unless you need to or want to. So podcast you don't need to listen to, and it's a podcast to put you to sleep that really more is here while you fall asleep. A sleep offering instead of a sleep solution, sometimes I say. So that's that. Oh, structurally, this can also throw new people off, so I want to acknowledge it. The show starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary, and in these episodes, trees and multiforms. Then we have business, and that's how we keep the podcast coming to you twice a week. Then there's an intro. And normally, it's the intro that throws people off. Sometimes people think that the business lasts the whole intro, but the business is just a portion at the beginning of the show. Then there's an intro, which is really long. It's about 12 to 20 minutes long. And it's me kind of keeping you company and just talking and introducing the podcast. And about 2% of regular listeners skip the intro. And like everyone else, when you become a regular, at first it's to introduce you to the podcast and to kind of get an idea of what you're in for, which is not much, a leaf floating on a barely moving stream. But if you become a regular listener, what it kind of happens is you say, oh, okay, this is how I like to consume sleep with me. And some examples of that are starting the podcast as you're getting ready for bed, whether it's brushing your teeth or changing your clothes or, turning down your bed or, doing some other bedtime activities that are chill, like sitting or laying or knitting or hooking. I've seen some people do something like knitting, but it's hooking. Maybe you're playing hooky and you say, well, I'm just going to take the day off and take a nap. That's awesome. Or maybe like you're doodling or, I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe you're petting your animal and they're drooling because I almost said drooling. Or some people are in bed and they start the podcast and as they're getting comfortable and getting settled. So the whole idea of the intro is to ease you into bedtime with something that's kind of familiar and comforting, but also different every time because my brain constantly adapts to sleep stuff and it says, okay, this is not, might work for me once. But I guess my philosophy of sleep with me is that's different every time to get by those parts of you. And I think the beginning of the show is a perfect example of that, but I'll come back to that. But so that's the intro. So it could throw people off. Then there's business between the intro and the show. That's just part of podcast structure. Then we'll be talking about an episode of Doctor Who, Series Season 3, Episode 2, Shakespeare Code, the Shakespeare Code. But it'll be if you've seen the episode, you'll say, wow, that was not much. That had Shakespeare and the doctor and Martha in it. Other than that, I don't know how accurate it was. And if you haven't seen it, don't worry. It'll be like a bedtime story. And actually a really nice one. You got Martha, the doctor, and Shakespeare in it. So you say, okay. I don't know who two of those three people are, but it sounds somewhat bedtime and story induced. And I say, you got it. That's what I'm here for. Then there's some thank yous at the end of the show. So that's the structure of the show. The reason I make the show is twofold. One, you deserve a good night's sleep. I want you to know that. And I'm here to try to provide that if I can. Because you deserve it. Your world will be a better place. Your life will be a little bit better. You'll be rested. And our greater world will be a better place. So you deserve a good night's sleep. The other reason I make the show is because I've been there and I know how it feels. And if I can relieve that for any of you or reduce it, that's my honor. And then that kind of leads into, I have a person, I have one of those brains that's going a mile a minute, and it's not always productive, and also needs a little bit, it's constantly adapting. And so even tonight I said, okay, well, I'm going to start the podcast intro, and I started doing it, and I got to this familiar part, and then I remembered someone wrote something on Reddit that was funny in a positive way. And people were kind of going back like, oh, good thing, Scoot, I like it when Scoot says press play. Don't forget to turn out the lights. Like people were, and I was thinking about that in a positive way. Then my brain said, what about that other stuff you got to finish getting done later? And I said, oh, yeah. It said, well, here's what I think. This is while I was talking. I mean, that was like a part of the podcast that's kind of rote memory anyway. But that doesn't excuse it. It's just important. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means I fell out of focus there. And then it said, it was talking about this YouTube video I made to explain something about the Patreon feed to patrons. And it said, okay, this is what you got to do to improve that. And so then I started thinking, okay, then we'll do this and we'll do this. We got to get it done. And then I realized that I was spun out, like editing a YouTube video while I was trying to talk to you. And that's why I acknowledge and apologize, because I said, wait a second, excuse me, to do brain. I got to get back to the listener who's trying to fall asleep. And that, sometimes I'm in a calm spot like I am today, and embracing and accepting spot. And I can say, hey, I know you want to get that done, and that's a concern of ours for later. Let me focus on the moment right now. And this person we're trying to help fall asleep. I respect that you want to get that done later. But I'm going to return to this moment. I'm going to let this person know what happened and just see how it goes. At nighttime, that conversation does not go that well. Also, there's like probably 40 or 50 voices. And some of them are from the far past and the far future, or fictional futures and pasts, saying, oh boy, wait till this, And so I know how it feels. So when you say, well, I just want to go to sleep here, could you give me a break? And the idea of the podcast is that's a tool in that to say, hey, let me just listen to me, and I'll kind of take up your brain space here. But it has to be, in my opinion, a little bit different every time, because there's something about that going through that I wasn't in the moment. And I knew what I was going to say for the next 45 seconds. That my other part of my brain said, let's run with this. I got a memo for you to read. So I don't know. I mean, the other thing is, if you're regular listeners, you hear it. Like, this podcast is always incrementally evolving. And I'm growing as a person. So it really is an honor for me to make this show, because not only do I know how it feels, I don't know, like in serving you in some small way, it gives me great meaning, but it also gives me a lot of growth opportunities that I might not necessarily have. So I don't know, I'm here to try to take your mind off. So if you're new, yeah, the show's very different, but give it a few tries. There's nothing really to lose. It's a free podcast, right? And just see how it goes. And maybe the podcast doesn't work for you, but you say, well, I did like the doodling, and then maybe you'll try out another sleep podcast or something else. So just see how it goes. I really do want to help. I really appreciate you coming by. I work hard, I yearn, and I strive. And I really hope I can help you fall asleep. Thanks again. And here's a couple of ways we're able to bring you this podcast for free. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it the bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. Thoughts, so things on your mind that you're thinking about from the past, present, or future. Usually for me, it's like thinking about stuff in the future that has related to, that could happen in the future that's because of the past that I need right now to, like very little present, except for presently, you need to think about this stuff and really remember it in visceral detail. So thoughts, so those are some thoughts that go through my mind. Feelings, emotions could come up from those thoughts. They could just be there from the day or long, they could just be there. Emotions are another way to say it. And then physical sensations that could be keeping you up. It could be other stuff too. Changes, noises, work routine, life routine. Maybe too much poutine. You say, oh boy, I had too much of that poutine. Is that how you say it, poutine? Suddenly I'm like, oh boy, did I say that incorrectly? I don't know. Maybe that would probably help you fall asleep. You say, that's a comfort food, Scoots. I say, oh boy, it is, I think. But so whatever's keeping you awake, it could be any of those things. It could be something else. What I'm here to do is create a safe place and take your mind off of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth the safe place. I'm going to pat the safe place. I'm going to rub it down. All in enticing, inviting, you say, oh boy, that looks like Scoots is putting some work in there. Create a real nice, safe place. And then what I'll do is I'll send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'll use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. Oh, so creaky, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So I'll go off topic. I'll go on tangents and then get distracted. And lots of filler words and stuff like that. So let me see if you're new. I'm here to keep you company while you drift off is the summary of really my job. Well, my first job, if you're new, is to earn your trust or your mild. I want to earn your trust in such a way that you forget I'm here. Talk about trustworthy. But in a way you say, well, like almost like, well, yeah, I don't need to really think about you at all. How come there's not more relationships like that? You see, tell me about, maybe that would be a little bit, well, what are you looking for? Well, someone that forgets I'm around, except when of course there's times I would like to be remembered. But when I say I'm your boar friend or your boar bae or your boar cuz or your boar sib or your boar bestie, that's really what I'm looking for in our relationship here is you say, well, just forget I'm there. Don't even bother acknowledging me. And then that'll make me very happy. That would be a passive-aggressive way. Usually nanas say that. Oh, just don't pretend I'm here at all, except when I groan in displeasure at what that you're not acknowledging me. And and don't pay attention to the advice I give you. Oh, no, no, no. That's what the Nana in my mind says pretty much 24 hours a day. But I've learned to prioritize other voices. Because she doesn't really mean that, right? She says, don't listen to what I said about you, about first grade, second grade, third. No. Don't think about what I'm talking to right in your ear. Just ignore me. But she really means pay full attention because by going and saying hello to someone, it could unlock total consequence for the universe. Okay, but what was my point? Let's see. If you're new, don't pay any attention to me. That's the first thing about this podcast. It's a podcast you barely need to listen to. So you can kind of let me be background noise. I say, I want to be your background noise. That's like, I don't want to be, I'm not looking to be the number one person. You say, what are the podcasts you can't forget about? And then you make a list and you say, oh, I forgot about Sleep With Me. Listen to that 8,000 hours last year. Totally forgot. That's when I say, well, if you listen to, if you forgot about me, but you actually use the podcast, no problem. Now that you remembered, spread the word, but cool. So it's a podcast you don't need to listen to, and that's really the best way if you're new. I know there's a temptation to pay attention or wait for the podcast. You say, when's it getting started? I say, well, I'm here. I'm here keeping you company right now. So it's a podcast that never really gets started, and Peter's, but once it gets going, it peters out right after that. And most of the time I'm chasing around Peter's I'm saying, does Peter have a cottontail? Because I'm trying to catch up with it. Because I saw, where goes Peter's cottontail? Which way's a bunny trail? Because I don't even know what to look for in a bunny trail. Also, are there that many bunnies around here that use that no one else uses that trail? It's just a bunny trail? Okay, so don't pay attention, barely listen to me. That's one thing. The other thing is there's a lot of sleep podcasts now, but this is the one sleep podcast that's not here to put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company. That's really my job. I'm here to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff, and ideally you drift off, at your leisure. So I'm here to take your mind off stuff, and then if you can't sleep, I'm going to be here either way. So you say, well, I can't sleep. I'm saying, no problem. I'll be here before you tonight. I'll be talking about stuff and distracted by Peter's cottontail and my Nana. Is there any, sort of plant called the Peter's cottontail? Or they say, oh, yeah, that coral structure is known as the Peter's cottontail or Peter's cottontail. There's got to be, right? I got Peter Cotton. You say, what was that? What was it when they put out that new version of that game with the person with the red light nose, operator? What they said, Operator 2.0. There was Peter's cottontail. They say you got to get that out of there with the tweezers. Okay, so I thought, so don't listen to me. I'm here to barely put you to sleep, to take your mind off stuff, to be your bore bud. And that's why shows are about an hour, to give you plenty of time to drift off. So those are two things to know. The other things to know, structure of the show. That's another good thing for you to know. And it's interesting because this is episode 900. I think probably it's episode 900. Not 100% sure about that. And this structure of the show has developed over 900 episodes since 2013. It's slowly evolved to this, very slowly. Though if you're new or you listen to old episodes, you say, well, some people it feels the same. Some people it feels like a very big difference. But the show hopefully is always getting, it's like microscopically getting better. And you'd say, Scoots, is there something smaller than a microscopic improvement? And I'd say, yeah, probably electron microscopically getting better. Okay, that fits more. Yes, our show's we take the microscopic analogy down to the electron in the way I improve things. One day I'll put it together enough electrons that you'll say, holy cow, you got yourself some sort of, I don't know, you might have enough to spin them around something. I say, don't worry, there's infinite dark matter in there, maybe. So, so the structure of the show, it's slowly developed, but it definitely can throw people off. So if you're thrown off or you're skeptical or you're doubtful, totally normal reaction. Because this podcast is so different and structurally it's different. Show starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. And even that slowly developed around the show because I want everybody to feel seen and welcome. So, okay, this person's trying to make a safe place. So that's one. Then there's business. That's the way. So you say, it's free too. So I don't have to pay for, it's optional. This is what you say. This podcast actually works for millions of people, and it's optional to pay for it versus being behind a paywall or something because of the sponsors. So the sponsors are next. We do the business up front. That's like a few minutes. Then there's about a 12 to 20-minute section I call the intro, which we're like 10 minutes into now. So it's a little late to tell you that, but where I explain what the podcast is, and it takes me a long time. And it introduces you to the creaky dulcet tones, the pointless meanders, the superfluous tangents. Me, I come with a lot of stuff. I'm a bit different. So you can kind of get a sense, you say, okay, this podcast is a bit different. We like this, yeah, I don't know. What's the opposite of an electron microscope? When you say a bit different, I think you spend too much time on your electron microscopic improvements. So that's the intro. The intro for the new listener is supposed to introduce you to it, but it also is like this podcast doesn't work for everybody, but it also takes a while to get used to. So out of all those regular listeners, most of them said, hey, it took 2 or 3 tries for me to get used to the podcast. So kind of see how it goes. But then as you become a regular listener, like 2% of regular listeners skip the intro. They start the show at 20 minutes. And they just go from there. But 98, 97% of the rest of the listeners, they use the intro in different ways. But it kind of serves the same purpose. It's either part of their wind down routine or their falling asleep routine. So some people start it before they get into bed. Some people start it while they're at work, while they need a break. Some people start it in bed. But it eases you into bedtime, drifts you away from the day. So that's the idea of the intro. Then there's business between the intro and the show. That's just how podcasts are structured. So that's that. Then tonight we'll be doing a 900 look back. We'll just look at a type of episode we've done, real-time recipes. And we'll just take a look back at like those type of shows in a fun way. So it'll be real, like a bedtime story based on... like not a recap show, but a look back show. But really, you could sleep right through it. But if you don't, if you can't sleep, I'll be here and it'll be mildly interesting. And then the show closes with some thank yous and good nights because those are the people that made it possible to be here, and I appreciate that. So that's the structure of the show. I think that's it for new listeners. Like I said, I kind of grow on you. You know, when you I don't know if trees say this, but they say, well, that moss is pretty nice. So that's grown on me like moss. Took forever. At first, the other tree said, yo, what's that green stuff growing on you? Did you step on a frog or something? They said, no, I'm a tree. I've been here, 800 years. Oh, well, you got some green, fur growing on you. What, on the east side or the west side or the north side or the south side? I don't know. I'm a tree. Do I look like I have a compass? I mean, I know, but I'm being humorous. But yeah, I don't know what they, and you say, well, I can't see it. What's it on my rear? Can't turn around. Also, I'm a tree, so I don't really have ocular input devices or whatever those humans call those things, or birds have them too. But then, I don't know if trees time passes like for elves or something, but then you say, wow, this has a lot of good properties. One, I got a whole nother biome going, gives me somebody to talk to, cooling, nice to touch. Leprechauns go and take naps on it sometimes, which is, interesting, good to watch and listen to. And sprites do too, and some other forest friends. So that's cool. And it gives me some, I don't know, it gives me some flair, like from that movie. You say, well, now I have, I got moss. So I don't know. So that's I don't know how we got there with moss. I really have no idea where that came from. Oh, I'll eventually, for most listeners, I grow on them. In their sense of taste. That's a metaphor. But for some people, they just don't like the podcast, or me. You don't have to give it a second try, but I would say give it a few tries just to see if it helps, because I made the show 900 episodes, so that's probably somewhere maybe 18 to 20,000 hours I've worked just on the production side of the show. I'm just guessing. But that's probably around at least 18,000 hours. I put that effort in because I care, because I've been there. I know how it feels in the deep, dark night, tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, all those things. And so that's one reason. Another reason is you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve some rest, whether it's this podcast or something else, like Fans, another sleep podcast, meditation, whatever it is. You deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place of respite, and the world needs that. We need you rested so that you can flourish and live your life more fully, and it just will be better for everybody. If you got a little more space to be you. So that's why I make the show. So I really hope it can help you, but it doesn't work for everybody. So give it a few tries. I really appreciate you checking this show out. And then to everyone that's been here, whether you started the show in 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, or 20, or you're listening in 2021 or 2022, what up? I hope it's sweet out there. Thank you so much. I'm so happy I get to help you, and thank you for helping me. I've grown and changed as a person a lot. I've slowly, again, whatever's less than an electron microscope, improved who I am because the example you as listeners set for me with your kindness and support. And this really does feel like one of those rare two-way streets. I guess like the tree and the moss. You could be the tree, I'll be the moss, or you could be the moss, I could be the tree. And wherever, I guess if I was a tree, then my Nana would live up there. She'd be some sort of bird or something, or a squirrel. So I'm glad you're here. Again, appreciate your time. I work very hard. I yearn and I strive because I want to put you to sleep. And here's a couple of ways I'm able to do that for you twice a week. All right, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a tuck you in message. And as I start this message out, I want to make this very clear, especially if you're listening right now and you're new. You only listen to this show occasionally, like once in a while when you need it, or you're just having a tough time right now, getting through something, getting over something, the kind of things I talk about in the intro. Or if you're like me, a lot of times in my life where things financially felt challenging and supporting the show just isn't possible, you really don't need to do anything. You don't need to support the show directly or be concerned because we really do have you. And I'm going to read through some testimonials of people that support the show for them and for you. And those testimonials are just a few of the thousands of people that support the show so it can be here for people that can't support the show, or it really wouldn't make sense if you're only listening occasionally, if you're new, for you to support the show. So we have you covered. Like the listeners who I'm going to read through tonight, and like I'm trying to return to doing, we've done in the past, they're the reason the show can be here night after night, and that you don't have to worry about him. But before we get to those testimonials, there is a BUT, right? If you are listening right now and you normally listen all night long to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes a night, or you listen most nights during the week, if you fall asleep fast and you just happen to be hearing this, or you've been listening longer than a year, if the show is a big part of your evenings, your wind down, and your sleep, that's where I've been trying to be more and more clear and direct. I love making this podcast. The people that work with the show, work on the show, love making it. I love being a service, trying to bring sleepy joy and delight, help you fall asleep, bring you comfort in the deep, dark night. But the only way that happens is if you're in one of those listener categories, is if people that listen the same way as you do support the show. And we all go through seasons, right? So maybe you had your season of supporting the show, or maybe your season of supporting the show's coming up, or maybe you're like, well, I'm not sure. Let me look outside and see what I think. Or maybe you're hoping like that someone else will support the show, because it is either you or someone that listens like you supporting the show, or it's no one supporting the show tonight, right? It's either an all-night listener other than you, or you, the all-night listener, you, the multiple nights a week listener, you, the person that's been listening, or someone else that listens just like you, or it's just to be clear, like that's really what keeps the show going and impacts ups and downs of the show. So I don't know if tonight's your night. If you are in a position to support the show, you've been putting it off, maybe think about supporting it right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. And don't wait for tomorrow or set some kind of thing tomorrow. Or kind of like me, think fondly of the person that we're both hoping steps up tonight, that all-night listener, that person that falls asleep fast, somebody that's been listening 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, or someone that's here every night with us. But who has you guys? You know, who's in the community supporting the show for everyone? Well, Melissa is. Melissa's been listening for over 2 years now, nearly nightly. So a nearly nightly listener. And it helps so much and puts me in a very relaxed mood. I finally subscribed when I realized on most nights I didn't have my phone with me, but I could literally recite the beginning of the podcast in my head. And even that in my head almost worked. And the reason I didn't do it sooner was part of it was cost, but now I'm in a financial place to do so. But the other part was complacency. I think forgetting to do it when I inevitably would fall asleep. I've always been one of the super listeners described on the show, and I kept putting it off. And I think that came from a place of having all free podcasts. I think it was just truly complacency. I think you say it well in the podcast. This show has given me so much support and help. It's time to turn around and support you and the team. It feels nice to feel like we have a hand in keeping it afloat, and that is really true. And Taylor also supported the show, and Taylor said, I'm an adult, late 20s, early 30s, go through brief periods of insomnia that last around a month, and I tried sleeping me on a friend's recommendation and bounced off it. It wasn't until a few years later when I was really struggling that I tried it again, and it worked. And I found the ads distracting and decided to try out ad-free ones by supporting the show and found this version worked perfectly. The monthly cost is small compared to the benefit I get from the show. And even when my insomnia quiets down a bit, I still enjoy listening to the show because I like listening to Scooter. So thanks, Taylor. And then Stephanie. Stephanie has been listening for about 8 years, and I had the same experience Scooter just describes all the time. I tried the podcast and disliked it. I just didn't get it yet. And then later I was traveling. I thought I'd give her another try, and I've been listening since. And I really like the references on the show, some of the personal stories, and I can fall asleep really quickly now, and that's completely worth supporting the show. And I put on Sleep With Me also to make me feel more comfortable in other times. I just feel like I spend so much money on things that have no meaning in my life. This show means much more to me that I can't help but being a supporter. In the past, I felt like other people would take care of it for me, like there was people with limitless money who should be doing it for the rest of us. But once I really thought about how I spend my money and my deep relationship with the show, I realized I am one of the very few people who should be a supporter. It took a while, but I did so 3 years ago. I feel like I'm probably one of those super listeners. Scooter works hard for us, and hard work deserves fair compensation. And what about Debbie, who said, I listen almost every night, sometimes all night. I try to keep my queue full. I especially like the Trader Joe's episodes, and I feel comforted by a familiar voice. That's why I support Sleep With Me as a bore bestie, and it seems like a good value. The obstacle to me supporting the show was remembering to do so. Was to remember to do it once I decided to support this podcast. And if I feel responsible, free is great. But if something has worth, it's also important to support it financially. So thanks, Melissa, Taylor, Stephanie, and Debbie for supporting the show. It wouldn't exist without listeners like you. And maybe you relate to it. Maybe you're the person tonight, the Taylor, Stephanie, Debbie, Melissa tonight that'll support the show. And when you do, I believe it or not, I send out a video and I ask you why. So I'm looking forward to hearing your why of why you support the show. Thanks